And of course, Team USA basketball, they got to stir up some drama. They got to stir up some drama with Paige Bueckers hitting a shot on Caitlin Clark. They got to stir up some drama, and of course, just setting both of them up to get cooked in the comments. It is what it is.
You have to see this. Team USA basketball just dropped some practice footage, and let me tell you, social media went into an absolute frenzy almost instantly. In the clip, the one that's causing all the chaos, Paige Bueckers hits a shot right over Caitlin Clark during a simple drill. And honestly, you would think someone just hit a game winner in the NBA Finals based on the sheer insanity of the reactions online.
We're not going to act like CC wasn't getting PB to turn over that ball last time like they played last time they played like 3 times. Yeah. Paige Bueckers thought Caitlin Clark was on her team. She turned the ball over so much. I hope y'all are monitoring the negative, nasty comments from those.
You have to see this. Team USA basketball just dropped some practice footage, and let me tell you, social media went into an absolute frenzy almost instantly. In the clip, the one that's causing all the chaos, Paige Bueckers hits a shot right over Caitlin Clark during a simple drill. And honestly, you would think someone just hit a game winner in the NBA Finals based on the sheer insanity of the reactions online. You have to see this. Team USA basketball just dropped some practice footage, and let me tell you, social media went into an absolute frenzy almost instantly. In the clip, the one that's causing all the chaos, Paige Bueckers hits a shot right over Caitlin Clark during a simple drill. And honestly, you would think someone just hit a game winner in the NBA Finals based on the sheer insanity of the reactions online.
Oh, got you. I see.
But here's the million-dollar question, why? Why does one single practice shot during a routine drill create this much absolute chaos? I really want to hear from you on this one, so drop a comment below and let me know what you think this says about the state of basketball fandom today. So, to set the scene, Team USA basketball posted this practice footage from their high-profile training camp happening down in North Carolina. And wouldn't you know it, one clip in particular, just a few seconds long, was all it took to send the entire internet into a complete and utter meltdown mode. It was the moment Paige Bueckers smoothly hit a shot over Caitlin Clark during what looks like a completely standard run-of-the-mill defensive drill. The reactions that followed were not just instantaneous, they were completely and totally unhinged. So let's be perfectly crystal clear about what actually factually happened in this video clip. This was a practice drill. I'm gonna say that again, a practice drill. It was not some epic one-on-one game for bragging rights. It wasn't a scrimmage with anything on the line. It was a routine defensive exercise where players are specifically working on skills and situations. In this specific instance, Paige got a shot off and it went in. Caitlin was playing defense as she was supposed to. That's it. That is literally the entire story. But let's not be naive here. USA Basketball knew precisely what they were doing by choosing to post that specific clip. They could have showcased any number of other moments from that practice. They could have posted clips of Caitlin draining threes from the logo, or Cameron Brink swatting shots into the stands, or literally any of the other incredibly talented players making incredible plays. Instead, they made a calculated decision. They chose the one clip of Paige scoring on Caitlin because they knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that it would generate a massive amount of engagement. And you know what? Mission accomplished, because the comments section on that post immediately devolved into an all-out war zone. Predictably, Caitlin Clark fans rushed to her defense, pointing out the obvious that this was just a single possession in a practice, that Caitlin has been sidelined for 5 whole months recovering from a significant injury, and that practice drills are fundamentally meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Meanwhile, Paige Bueckers fans celebrated as if she had just single-handedly won the finals MVP trophy, acting like this one. Single shot somehow proved something definitive about who the superior player is. The fundamental reality, the one that both of these passionate fan bases seem to refuse to acknowledge, is that elite players score on other elite players constantly. That's just how basketball works. That's precisely what happens when you pit great offensive talents against great defenders. you know what? Sometimes the offense is going to win that battle, and sometimes the defense is going to come out on top. A single possession, especially in a controlled practice drill, tells you absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, about who's the better overall player. But let's be real, nuance and level-headed analysis don't get clicks and generate engagement on social media, do they? No, what works is controversy. Hot takes and blind tribal loyalty are what fuel the algorithm. And so we were flooded with comments like Paige is finally excited to win something, which is not only unnecessarily harsh but also incredibly ignorant, considering Paige has been battling through devastating, career-altering injuries throughout her college career that tragically prevented her from competing for championships. She was favored to win. Then of course, we got comments from the other side, like Paige thought Caitlyn was on her team because she turned the ball over so much, which is a clear reference to their previous college matchups where Caitlyn's Iowa teams actually defeated Paige's UConn teams on multiple occasions. The level of pettiness is just completely off the charts, and you can bet that USA Basketball absolutely knew it would be this way when they decided to post that clip. They're not clueless, they're masters of this game. They understand the fan bases, they know the rivalries, and they're keenly aware of the massive attention that comes from even the slightest appearance of drama between Caitlyn and the other top players in the game. And here's what truly gets lost in all of this manufactured social media driven controversy, the thing that actually matters. Both Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers are phenomenally talented basketball players who are there for one reason and one reason only, to help Team USA prepare for incredibly tough international competition. They aren't mortal enemies, they are in fact teammates working together towards a single common goal. The whole idea that we as fans and media need to dissect and overanalyze every single interaction between them, turning it into some kind of definitive verdict on who's better, is just utterly exhausting and frankly misses the entire point. Now, if you actually watched the full practice footage, you'd see that Caitlyn was looking incredibly sharp, especially after being forced to stay away from competitive basketball for 5 long months. She was moving really well, she was shooting the ball with her trademark confidence, and she was playing defense with a noticeable energy and a high level of engagement. For someone who had to sit out most of the WNBA season dealing with frustrating knee injuries, she looked remarkably prepared to compete at the highest possible level. One analyst even pointed out that it's incredibly impressive how mentally engaged Caitlyn managed to stay with her Indiana Fever team throughout the season, despite being injured and completely unable to play. That mental grind, the challenge of sitting on the sidelines when every fiber of your being desperately wants to be out there competing, is unbelievably difficult. It's especially tough when you consider she went straight from a historic all-consuming college season directly into the WNBA with absolutely no real break, only to be suddenly and unceremoniously forced to the sidelines. The very fact that she remained so visibly engaged with her team, constantly supporting her teammates from the bench, staying connected to the game, that right there speaks volumes about her maturity and her professionalism as an athlete. The practice footage also made a point to show Caitlyn in a solid defensive stance on multiple occasions, actively putting in the work on that end of the floor. You see, the narrative that she's some kind of defensive liability has unfairly followed her throughout her entire career, and a lot of that criticism is just not based in reality. Sure, she's not an elite, lockdown defender on the level of a Junior Holiday, but she is far from the defensive turnstile that some of her harsher critics make her out to be. The fact that she's so clearly focused on improving her defense during a high-stakes Team USA practice suggests that she understands it's an area where she can still grow, and she wants to prove to everyone that she can more than hold her own. And let's not forget, Paige Bueckers even being at this camp is a huge deal in its own right. She's coming off her own incredibly difficult injury struggles and is on a mission to rebuild her reputation as one of the truly elite players in the world of women's basketball. You have to remember, the hype surrounding Paige when she first arrived at UConn was absolutely massive. I mean, she was anointed as the next great college superstar, the undeniable future face of women's basketball. But then, a series of devastating injuries completely derailed her trajectory, and by the time she was finally healthy and back on the court, Caitlin Clark had exploded onto the scene and become the single most dominant force in college basketball. Now, that's certainly not Paige's fault in any way. Injuries are a cruel and unpredictable part of sports, but it undeniably creates a fascinating dynamic where Paige is now, in a sense, trying to reclaim some of that massive spotlight that naturally shifted over to Caitlyn during her absence. Now, let's be clear, one single shot in a practice drill doesn't accomplish that goal, not by a long shot. But what it does do is give her dedicated fans something to cheer about, and it pours fuel on the rivalry narrative that USA Basketball is so clearly eager to promote for their own engagement purposes. The comments that pointed out how people were inevitably going to make this whole situation weird were of course 100% correct. It felt like within mere minutes of that clip being posted, the entire online discourse had devolved into nothing more than tribal warfare between the two opposing fan bases. Any chance for rational, intelligent discussion about the actual game of basketball flew right out the window, immediately replaced by a desperate need to defend your preferred player at all costs while simultaneously attacking the other one. Someone actually commented that, as a Paige fan, if anybody's raving about her cooking Caitlyn in this clip, they don't know basketball and are just being weird. And you know what? That is an incredibly rare, level-headed take in a sea of chaos. Because the truth is, practice footage of a single isolated possession doesn't prove a single thing. It's just noise. The reality is that both of these incredible players have cooked each other on offense at various points throughout their careers. That's just what happens when you have two elite offensive talents going head to head. The reference someone made to Paige loving a good pump fake is spot on. That's a signature part of her offensive game. She is incredibly crafty, highly skilled, and she knows exactly how to use her body and fakes to create space and get her shot off against taller defenders. And of course, Caitlyn has her own deep arsenal of offensive moves. You have the iconic step back three, the deadly pull-up jumper from absurd ranges, and that uncanny ability to shoot off the dribble from 30 feet out with defenders draped all over her. Let's be clear, both of these women are exceptionally skilled offensive players who are capable of scoring in a multitude of ways against any defense you throw at them. What's so incredibly frustrating about this whole manufactured situation is that we finally got the chance to see Caitlin Clark playing actual competitive basketball again after a grueling 5 months of waiting and rehabilitation. We got to see her actually going up against real defenders, making complex reads in real time, and competing in high-intensity drills that are designed to simulate actual game situations. That should have been the headline. The real story here is that Caitlyn's back, and she looks ready to dominate. But instead, what did the story become? It became about one single practice shot that Paige happened to hit over her, and the ridiculous fanbase war that erupted in the comments section as a direct result. So yes, USA Basketball got the juicy engagement they were clearly chasing, but it came at a cost. The cost was turning what should have been a celebration of incredible talented players working together for a common goal into cheap manufactured drama. And the thing is, the footage showed other amazing players too, who are being completely overlooked in this chaos. We saw Cameron Brink, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, and even Chelsea Gray, who was hobbling along the court as she continues her own recovery from a tough injury. We even saw the phenomenal Juju Watkins observing from the sidelines, soaking it all in. There is so much legitimate talent and so many interesting, compelling storylines woven throughout this entire training camp, but none of that generates the same level of frantic engagement as the Caitlyn versus Paige narrative, and so that's the story that gets amplified above all else. Somebody in the comments brought up a really good point, asking why Sabrina Ionescu wasn't present at this particular camp, which is a totally fair and legitimate question to ask. And the most likely answer to that is that USA Basketball is probably using this specific camp as an opportunity to go younger, to bring in and evaluate the next generation of superstars who will be representing the country in major competitions for years to come. That's almost certainly why you see players like Caitlyn, Paige, Cameron Brink, and Juju Watkins there. These are the athletes who will likely be carrying the torch for Team USA for the next decade or even longer. Now, that comment about Paige being excited to finally win something was, as I said, unnecessarily cruel, but it does perfectly reflect the kind of deep-seated toxicity that festers and thrives within these intense fan-base battles. The truth is, Paige has had to deal with absolutely devastating injuries that unfairly prevented her from achieving what she was on track to achieve in her college career. That's a tragedy, not something to be mocked or used as a punchline. But as we all know, the world of online discourse doesn't reward empathy or nuanced perspective. It rewards inflammatory hot takes and unwavering tribal loyalty, no matter how misguided. And so, we get a situation where people are gleefully dunking on Paige for having one good moment in a practice. Or on the flip side, people are viciously dunking on Caitlyn for the crime of getting scored on one time during a simple drill. In the end, nobody really wins in these scenarios, except of course for the social media platforms themselves, which are designed to profit from this exact kind of chaotic engagement. I will say, that snippet of footage showing Caitlyn shooting her signature step-back 3 was incredibly satisfying to watch, especially after 5 long months without seeing it in a competitive environment. That single move is a huge part of what makes her such a special, once-in-a-generation player. It's the unbelievable range, the lightning-quick release, and the sheer audacity and confidence to pull up from anywhere past half court and drain it. It was also interesting that USA Basketball's own social media account acknowledged that it's her signature move, which at least shows that they understand what makes her such a unique and marketable talent. Seeing Caitlyn and Aaliyah Boston together at the camp just makes perfect sense, given their established connection as teammates on the Indiana Fever. They already have an existing chemistry and rapport that can seamlessly translate to the international stage with Team USA. The comment in the original video's commentary about Nike is also worth highlighting. Nike absolutely needs to have a full line of signature gear ready to go for Caitlyn, especially when she's representing Team USA. That number 17 jersey, it's going to sell out in minutes. It's going to be an absolute goldmine for them. The fact that current college superstars like Juju Watkins and Lauren Betts are also at this camp, just observing and learning from the veterans, is an incredibly smart move for the future of the program. But unfortunately, all of that fascinating context and important nuance gets completely buried underneath the avalanche of fan-based warfare over one single solitary shot in a practice. The simple reality is this: Caitlyn Clark and Paige Bueckers are both incredibly, unbelievably talented basketball players who, by competing against each other, actually make each other better. Their rivalry, to whatever extent it genuinely exists outside of social media, actually elevates both of their games to a higher level. That's what true competition does. But you see, that's not a narrative that generates clicks. It's not a story that drives frantic engagement on social media platforms. And so, USA Basketball posts the one clip of Paige scoring on Caitlyn. In response, the fans completely lose their minds in the comments section, just as they were expected to. And here we are, left debating the monumental significance of one single practice possession, rather than celebrating the fact that we finally got to see Caitlyn Clark playing competitive, high-level basketball again after 5 long, frustrating months. One shot, in one drill, in one practice, somehow became irrefutable proof of superiority or inferiority, depending entirely on which fanbase you happen to ask. 51.4S